Adani will be establishing Australia's largest ever coal mine to be situated within the Carmichael Basin, in Queensland's mid-north. The mine site will cover 454 square kilometres of protected land belonging to the Indigenous Wangan and Jugalingal people under their registered native title claim. The Traditional Family Owners Council formally rejected the Indigenous Land Use Agreement, allowing Adani on their land, responding that mining operations would destroy their ancestral homelands and their heritage. The protected land possesses unique and sacred freshwater spring systems that are fed by Australia's largest underground water reservoir, the Great Artesian Basin. The impacts of Adani's 12 billion litre thirst for water each year and other invasive underground mining operations will eventually lead to the permanent drying of these spring systems, which will cause catastrophic damage to native wildlife and the natural landscape within the Carmichael. Despite the lack of respect and consideration given to the traditional custodians and rightful owners of the land, the Queensland Government approved the mining lease for Adani and granted the company a water licence within the native title claim that will allow them to extract unlimited amounts from the Artesian Basin. Adani will transport the coal via train to ports along the Great Barrier Reef, the largest living structure on the planet, comprising of over 3,000 reef systems along the coast of Queensland. Coral bleaching has so far affected over 2/3 of the reef, and in the last 30 years, almost half of all coral has died. The increase of coral death has been caused by a warmer ocean due to huge concentrations of global carbon dioxide emissions absorbing into the water. The contribution to the ongoing death of coral will be provided by 120 million tonnes of carbon dioxide that will be produced from the burning of the Carmichael coal in India each year. However, only 3 million tonnes that will be produced during the mining extraction process has been deemed as having a relevant impact on the Australian environment, according to select government officials. The Australian government also gave approval to dredge 1.1 million cubic metres of ocean seabed within the port of Abbott Point to allow for the increased number of coal ships that will frequent the area. Adani was even granted a permit to dispose of the dredged material elsewhere into the ocean, but evidence was easily gathered that dredged material has the potential to damage coral, so the permit was later cancelled. Adani will be freely able to pollute Australia's pristine coast with a huge increase of coal ships, creating a heightened risk of shipping disasters like the Shen Neng coal ship that crashed into part of the Great Barrier Reef in 2010. Some toxic debris still hasn't been properly cleared, thanks to the government's increased focus on raising coal ships' numbers over marine life safety. The Carmichael coal mine project has such obvious environmental concerns that dozens of Australian and international financial institutions have publicly stated they will not fund any of Adani's projects. All of Australia's major banks have ruled out funding to Adani. The only publicly known financial lender to the coal mine to date is the Australian government, who are offering $1 billion taxpayer dollars to help lift the financially incapable mine project off the ground. The Australian government and the Adani Group claim that the dirty Carmichael coal will help release millions out of energy poverty. But India's Prime Minister announced in 2015 that India will be targeting a 35% reduction in current emission levels and want to have 40% of the national power generation from renewable sources by 2030, which means a much less global coal demand, putting the already established Australian coal mines at financial risk in the near future. The success of the renewable energy sector in the coming years appears like it will put the light out on the coal industry, but will the Australian government allow permanent and irreversible damage to the protected land of the Carmichael, its fragile water networks, and the Great Barrier Reef, all for coal profit? Well, of course. After all, coal makes more money than coral.